Welcoming all our esteemed viewers here on today's International Affairs, being broadcasted from the SATV's Gulshan studio. I am, of course, your host of the program, Shamsul Alam Panto, bringing you the most important news around the globe. Let me begin by stating that U.S. President Donald Trump has urged Tehran to immediately stop their highly paid proxies in Lebanon from causing further trouble, or Washington will hit Iran very hard again. Being stated, Iran's negotiating team has protested U.S. President Donald Trump's threats during ongoing talks in Switzerland at the Lake Lucerne summit. We have seen some video footage as well of the Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, shaking hands with the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and immediately retracting away from the summit, while J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States of America, alongside negotiators Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, were there to see how these reactions were coming to life. With that being said, both the mediating nations of Pakistan and Qatar are in diplomatic talks. As the talks are still continuing, before I begin the discussion, let me introduce my panel. Here in the studio, I have Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. He is, of course, hailing from Dhaka University. I welcome you on to the program. I'm happy to see you here in this week's episode, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent situated in Washington, District of Columbia. I want to begin with you, Norman. During this Lake Lucerne summit, we have seen some commentary coming from U.S. President Donald Trump. It has, of course, created somewhat tensions that we see as international media is picking out on. Alongside this, if there is any other updates which is important for geopolitics, I want to pass it to you. A very good morning to you, Norman.
Greetings from Washington, D.C. Today we wake up to new information from the talks in Switzerland. Vice President Vance met with the officials from Iran and Pakistan, and they started the discussions about the de-escalation of fighting in Lebanon. They are setting up a new, smaller cell group to talk about how they can, including Lebanese officials, on how they can stop the fighting and cease the conflict in Lebanon. This is very important to the overall deal between the United States and Iran. It appears that the Hezbollah and the Israelis are still fighting. There's no understanding right now on exactly how that's going to conclude. So while they were discussing that, our beloved President Donald Trump decided to make a comment about what he will and will not do regarding Iran. The Iranians took offense to that and ended the talks for today. And that's where we stand right now. We're waiting now for the we'll call lower level talks to start regarding the de-escalation of fighting with Lebanon so they can move forward. And as we know, as a result of President Trump's comments, the Iranians said that the strait is now closed again. And of course, the United States responded by saying the strait is open. So that's what we're saying. We're going back and forth. These little fraudulent slips, comments are coming out from Washington, which is causing real problems for Vice President Vance and his delegation on negotiating with the Iranians. So right now, words are being shot across the ocean back and forth about, we're going to bomb you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to respond to the bombs. There's going to be, hell to deal with. So here we go, another week of the same old problems, conflict, words, and the Iranians are saying, we're not going to respond with words, we're going to respond with action. So once again, I have not changed my viewpoint. We are moving towards a conflict.
Right. Increasingly interesting topics stated by Norman Floyd Barnes. Of course, covering the issues that we see today. As mentioned by Norman, there has been an announcement of a deconfliction cell, including the U.S., Lebanon, Iran, Qatar, and Pakistan. Is of course comes days before the fifth round of hosted talks between Beirut and Israel. I want to turn to the studio with Professor Rashid Alam Bhuya. We know for a fact that this summit was supposed to take place on Friday as a signing ceremony.
Right.
Regardless of the signing, now it has taken fledged as technical talks, labeled as a technical talk. And we are seeing some of the takeaways that are happening because of the Memorandum of Understanding, the Islamabad Memorandum. I want to ask you how you assess the future of such deal, given that there remains a nation in the Middle East which continues to berate this deal, continues to make sure that deal is spoiled at a very early notion. How do you assess the situation?
Thank you so much for bringing me here and also on the topics like, we have been discussing this for months now. So same thing, one step forward and two step back. So, when Islamabad summit was taking place, then at that time, Israel intervention came into a struggling point when USA had to, back off from the deal. And then now, again, on the Israel interventions in the Lebanon and ongoing war in Lebanon, atrocities, as what was one of the primary condition that Iran put on US, that they have to that the ceasefire has to be maintained in all in actually, including Lebanon. So when Lebanon fighting is going on and within the signing ceremony, at that moment, very moment, the IDF was, continued its bombing operation in Lebanon. So at that cause, actually, it huge distrust, and also Donald Trump's tweet, as you mentioned. So he is actually talking about Iran has to cut up their support for the Hezbollah, and also otherwise he's gonna bomb Iran. So that kind of tweet and that kind of a statement, when you are talking with and when you are in the peace deal, is really provoking and is actually blocking the opponents to trust your intentions. So that's why Iran and also the Ghalibaf and Abbas are when they were one of the rational mind in Iran current government. So when they are willing to make a deal, because as the America is willing to, but they also having very much pressure from within Iran, because they're treating them as a traitor. So some sort of the conservative forces there, because they want this war to be in, and they want to see the Israelis surrendering. So that's why without that resolution, when they're willing to accept the deal from the US, there are also been immense pressure from within Iran as well. So that's why with all sort of things, Abbas, Araghchi and Ghalibaf didn't shake hands with J.D. Vance yesterday, because there is a continuous distrust, and USA intention is also not clear, and Israel is also meddling the water when the peace talk is very much in the final stage. Yeah.
Right. Important once we understand how Israel is continuously meddling in such affairs. Some of the takeaways between the nations that have met at the Lake Lucerne summit, I want to ask Norman as well. Previously, there was a notion of a 300 billion compensation package towards Iran. We have done reporting and covering of how United Arab Emirates also plans on sending such compensation in frozen assets belonging to Iran back to Iran. And in the latest, we see that Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian stating 6 billion worth of frozen assets in Qatar shall be returned to Tehran as a part of a preliminary deal between Iran and the US. More or less, at the end of the day, Iran is going to be strong-armed with so many nations unfreezing these assets. Previously, we've reported saying that $1 is 1 million in the Iranian currency. However, that won't have a difference, because all of this would only strengthen Iran's military capacity as well as economic virtues as well. I want to ask Norman, this kind of compensation package, how the world leaders are going to see this, because it will strong arm Iran once more for any kind of future conflict. Do you see the same across these lines, Norman?
Yes, I have to agree with that. Is what we seeing now. You see one conversation about the war is over. The United States is winning the war. We have control of it. We're going to open the strait. We're going to do that. What really happened under the surface is because of this conflict, because of how we got into it, our involvement, the status of the United States in terms of as a global leader has been diminished to the point. And why I say that is what you're seeing now is that before these countries, UAE, Qatar, and other countries around the world was dependent on the United States as the big brother, as the guardian, as the one to ensure that they were
Accurate.
able to go upon their lifestyle as they accustomed to. But because of what happened and because of our the United States response to Iran, and Iran has found a weakness, and the weakness is basically to control the Strait of Hormuz. You control the energy, you control the economy, you control how the world works, and you control how the United States respond. So as a result of this, countries are now recognizing that Big Brother can't protect them from the big bad wolf across the river. So now they have to understand since they are in the area and the United States is far away and the United States has limited impact on Israel, they have to make their own decisions. As we move into this multipolar world, one thing has evolved that every country has to have its own sovereignty. They have to understand that they have to take care of themselves and not be dependent on one or other countries to do their bidding. This goes forward also in the UA in the United Emirates, also in Europe, also with NATO, also with other countries around the world. So what you see now is this country is going to make these backdoor deals directly with Iran for their own security and relationship. So this is going to empower. This is what exactly Iran needs basically to reestablish their economy, to reestablish to get the sanctions off, so they can participate in the world order and we moving forward and do business. So on the surface, it appears that there's a control issue with the United States and Iran, and they are controlling what Iran can do. In essence, the other countries are not trusting what the United States can promise. They're promising, but they can't deliver. So they're making their own insurance policy by creating these backdoor deals and creating these scenarios where they can ensure that their livelihood is going to prevail. And on the benefit side, the advantage is that now Iran can get back on the global scale of doing what they're supposed to be doing, and at the same time holding the magic key to the world that is the strait. And they are now in a position to empower themselves. Even though these talks may go on or whatever happened, at the same time, they are developing, they are coming back, they are developing, they're becoming a world power in a different way. The other issue is that the US dollar, the world is dependent on the US dollar. That
Right.
is now becoming an option, an alternative. Now, there are other means they're dealing with, other forms of money, the BRICS, the Global South, other forms of currencies being accepted, which is also going to empower Iran and other parts of the world. So now the cash flow is flowing, but it's not in petrodollars, which is going to basically destabilize how the United States position itself in the world, and they're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to adapt to this new alternative currency and how we're doing business. So things are changing as a result of our engagement into this situation. Before we had an advantage, now we have a disadvantage. We have to now make concessions. So that's why you're seeing these sanctions being lifted, these concessions about the weapons, these concessions are going to be about the nuclear enrichment. All these things are now being conceded because, we have an issue with the oil. The oil reserves are low.
Right.
They have to be built back up again. So we now are being managed and controlled by what we call the losers or the victims. The victims are now becoming the victors overall, the big picture. And I do not see any let up of this. This is not going to end. We have agreement. We're going to slow this. We're going to open up the channels. We're going to make an agreement. But the pressure is still going to be on to the United States about how they position themselves in the world, while the other countries are now creating new relationships, new partnerships, new agreements that is going to overall help the world move forward. But it will require the United States to adjust and adapt itself, its mission, to participate in this. So overall, it would be a better world, but a shift and a transition is happening. We are in a transitional period right now.
Right.
And so adjustments will be made. And at the end, everything will be okay. It will be a shift. And you just have to get used to a new person sitting at the table and a new way of doing things. But there's plenty of food on the table for everyone to eat very well.
Right. Excellent statements coming from Norman Floyd Barnes, breaking up the situation of the global order as well as the U.S. influence from around the world. I want to end, and before I end, I want to give a comparison with February 28th with today. Today we are hearing news from Israel that it's saying the Israeli army shall not withdraw from the territory occupied in southern Lebanon, according to Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz. Namely so, when Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was being assassinated, before that, we have seen how Israel Katz has ordered the Israeli army to carry out this attack. The very same situation we see at 115 days, while the summit is appearing to tie nations such as Qatar and Pakistan closer than ever before. With that being stated, it's time to take a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay tuned on this program for more. Welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Pantho.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen,
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks,
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
with President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Welcoming our viewers back on International Affairs. Here in the studio, we have Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. Across him on Zoom, we have Norman Floyd Barnes. We were having a very interesting discussion regarding the state of affairs of the Lake Lucerne Summit. Of course, that includes Qatar, Pakistan, Egypt, as well as Iran and the United States of America. There are some issues that I also want to pick out, which is concerning with European partners for the United States of America. I want to begin in the studio with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who has lost out on his popularity, a very important tool for a leader to stay in power, as Labour is also losing popularity in controlling some of the issues that stem out from the UK society. As according to US President Trump, Keir Starmer shall resign from his office, citing failures on immigration and energy policies anytime around today on a Monday. I want to ask Professor Rashid in the studio, how are you analyzing this kind of event? Donald Trump once again is making headlines for a political movement happening in the United Kingdom. I want to get a remark from you on who can be the likely successor for this kind of position.
Thank you so much. I think the reality in global scale, like the Iran-Israel war and US war, is actually turning to different parts of the world. And at the moment, we can see the events in UK, particularly the Keir Starmer, whose party came into largest majority in the last election, national election. Now they are into shrink of failure, particularly in the last local election in May. Their party lose actually 1,500 councillors, and they also lost the control of Wales, and also in the Scottish Parliament they have did a very bad in the last century, if you compare in the last century. So within that there is a huge controversy about the role of Keir Starmer, and within the party he lost his confidence. And even that the Keir Starmer would like to continue, but last week when a by-election won by Andy Burnham, actually, who is likely to be Makerfield MPs, who is won the by-election within the Labour Party, particularly his campaign, people accepted, because when they lost all their election in the local level, this win in by-election by a Labour person is actually giving him a greater contender of Keir Starmer. So that's now Keir Starmer is now considering to step down, because he also failed miserably, because the energy policy, you said, the energy subsidy the UK government is giving to the poor people and also the aged population, particularly the huge pricing in the last couple of years, and also like his policy on family farming, lots of tax has been imposed, and that also created huge distrust about the labour policies in all over the UK. And the new party, which is called Reform UK, has become immensely popular in the last local level election. So Labour, who came to power with absolute majority, now almost as the brink of collapse because of their poor policies, and also like the population in the UK is very much changing. And this is the fifth change, as a prime minister in the last 4 years. Like, after the David Cameron, who lost the Brexit vote in 2012, then Theresa May came, and then Boris Johnson came, he didn't complain.
Rishi Sunak was there
Rishi Sunak was there, and then Liz Truss, who was also for one or 2 months, and then the prime minister of, the Labour Party came into power. So overall, I think this is a huge chaos within the UK politics, particularly the two-party system also been collapsed. Like earlier, Conservative Party, Labour Party used to run the government. Now, Reform UK has become, Green Party also has become immensely popular. So there is a huge ramification in UK politics, and I think the Andy Burnham may be the most. If the UK, Keir Starmer decide to party conference in September, where the new prime minister may decide, or as a model of coronation, because the Andy Burnham, who won the Makerfield election last week, he also become the likelihood of the prime minister roles because of his winning the election for Labour Party against the tide. So that's give us a hint that in world scale, this war also causing huge difficulties for the people in Europe, because the energy prices immensely increasing, so which also create distrust among the political government they have in the European countries. And also we may see the president also may change soon, and there is a huge distrust among people, particularly the immigration, which also causing huge problem in Spain, Italy, and many other countries. So yeah, world is very much in a tremble moment at the moment, very much shaking the politics.
Excellent introductory into the United Kingdom regarding its administration and its recent changes, and how the world shall fare when Keir Starmer is set to leave his desk of Prime Minister. Turning to Norman, I'm sure you were hearing our Professor Rashid here in the studio. Some of the topics I will also ask you. 10 years ago, Britain chose to abandon its lucrative membership of the world's largest single market. It has been paying a price ever since. We are, of course, talking about the Brexit that happened 10 years ago. The referendum that marked the start of the United Kingdom's drawn-out divorce from the European Union. In a knife-edge vote, 51.9% of Britons opted to leave the EU, and 48.1% were to remain. in economic ties with the European Union. Of course, this upheaval is still being felt a decade later. Just want to ask you, the economic strains that people are feeling, there are certain jobs in an economy that not all residents are feeling comfortable to do so, and in which we've seen a huge number of European residents coming to the UK for a better job opportunities as well. I want to ask you, Donald Trump is also playing in on the fact of Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of UK. What are some of the issues that you see stemming from the United Kingdom? Norman?
Yes, the world is waiting for an announcement shortly. Matter of fact, we may have it before this show ends. The Prime Minister is going to announce his intentions and the future of the UK. As a result of that, we will see another change. I believe this is the third, maybe the third or closely the fourth change in the last 3 to 4 years. The economy in the UK is very unstable since they decided to go attempt in joining, creating Brexit. Well, it appears that this great experiment has not produced what the founders thought will be good for the region. So we may see some changes. Matter of fact, we'll have to see some changes going forward. It's not working for the economy. The people are not happy. And whoever you bring in now, is going to be the same thing. We'll be doing this 3 months, 6 months, 8 months from now. We'll be doing the same thing over again, changing hands, promising new changes and reform by politicians is not going to cut it. Real action need to take place. People are hurting. They are starving. They don't have money. They don't have means. They don't see a future. The point is, yes, you're hurt, but future. So no politicians have come up with a plan for the future. They are only talking about how they can empower, embellish, and basically enhance their own personal situation. This is not going to go forward. This is not. We have the same situation over in this country, other parts of the world, where we have politicians are lining their pockets and the people are not happy. So change is happening. And as we look at the situation in the Middle East, the same situation is going on in the UK, the United Kingdom, the European Union, Southeast Asia, everywhere is happening. This is a transformation. We have to understand that we have to find a new way, the traditional way of doing things, traditional way of moving forward is no longer valid and it holds no water because now with the invention of AI, people know they can get information. You can't lie to them. You can promise stuff and people are not going to understand that when basically everything you promise, the people have to pay. They suffer. So change is about to happen. And I pray that our leaders and our potential leaders understand that they have to change their way they approach and do things. If they don't, they will not, they will have a very short tenure and the people will replace them.
Yeah,
Of
just
course.
to add with what Norman said.
Very excellent remarks by Norman.
Absolutely.
Please add on.
I've been in UK until 2024 and I have seen how the inflation was hitting in my pocket as well. Like the house rent was, nearly 20% increase of my house rent when I started in 2020 and 2024 it was nearly 20% increase. And then the food inflation, like the groceries and everything, the milk everything was higher compared to the when I started in 2020 and when I leave in 2024. And that's why the mortgage rate increasing, high taxation, higher housing rent, higher inflation of the food and energies, and no real increase of income and salary. That's the major issues that the European countries now facing. And since the Brexit, there is no new employment has increased in US markets. UK. So the UK youths also feel immensely frustrated. When I have a conversation with some of the UK youth, they also express this kind of agony. So that is what, and one of the greatest analysts like Mark Schemer said, if the Iran and Israel war continue for another 3 or 4 months, at least 50 countries, head of the state or government will topple down. So that's the start, that's the beginning. So it can happen in everywhere.
The house of cards can easily fall, certainly when there is a war that is stemming in the middle of the entire planet. As I make from both gentlemen here on the program, the approaches from world leaders must be sane, must be in a controlled environment. Especially, we have the US President Donald Trump. Whenever he needs to vent out his reflections, his thoughts, it is always on his Truth Social handle, and there are some comments that he makes there that has real life implications. Once again, social media and how it's being used in geopolitics. Let me state some of the words he has stated regarding Italy's Prime Minister before we can go on a break. Of course, Donald Trump has criticized Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. I said, and as he said, and I quote, "After spending trillions of dollars on NATO, Italy and its Prime Minister wouldn't even think of becoming involved with the Islamic Republic of Iran and their very serious nuclear threat," as Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform. Writing this as a statement is, of course, a reflection of his mind, reflection of his consciousness, and it does have straining relations. In this recent bout with the Italian Prime Minister, she has called off the Italian Foreign Minister's visit to the United States, Antonio Tajani, and he stated that it is due to such commentary between the two leaders. With that being stated, it's time to go for a short break. Afterwards, we look at some of the movements of our Prime Minister, Mr. Tariq Rahman, who is in his movement of Malaysia and later on with China. Do stay tuned on this program as we discuss this issue. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Pantha.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks,
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
with President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. In its last segment, of course, we were in discussion from the United States to the United Kingdom to the Middle East, and now we look at our region here in South Asia as well as Southeast Asia, as Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman has landed in Malaysia yesterday to discuss labor, trade and issues of migration for the Rohingya refugee crisis. Of course, this would be his first overseas trip after winning the February national elections. I want to ask our guest in the studio, Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. This is his first time in a state visit with in the invitation of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, and of course he was given a guard of honor upon his arrival at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Right. With these festivities and media viewing going on. I want to ask some of the issues that both Malaysia and Bangladesh face. We have a huge migrant population of workers stemming from the north in Penang all the way down to Johor Bahru in the south of Malaysia. I myself used to be there as a student, and I understand there are certain issues that our government may choose to bring up with the respective government of Malaysia, especially the welfare of the expatriate population there. I want to just ask you, how are you seeing this? A very neutral stance by our government head for choosing Malaysia as the first destination. Of course, Anwar Ibrahim's Malaysia has been the center point of peace and diplomacy between various nations of the past, as we've seen Thailand and Cambodia coming to a resolution with the negotiation skills of Malaysia. I want to get your comments regarding
Thank you so
this.
much. So any foreign trip by a head of the state is actually needs to bring new avenues, new opportunities, new avenues for trade and commercial relationship with that country. So Bangladesh interest in Malaysia is very much, as you said, the expatriate. So we this is the fourth or fifth major destination for Bangladeshi worker. Now more than nearly 1 million, as I said, with irregular status and irregular status are living in Malaysia, Bangladeshi nationals. So I was doing my PhD in the precarity and migration in Bangladesh, Malaysia migration corridor. So I know, as you said, you also stayed in Malaysia for a couple of years. So there is a huge issues, the welfare issues that Bangladeshi migrant worker is facing in Malaysia, and that issues unfortunately cannot be resolved by the both countries' government. But for some reason, Malaysian government is responsible, and in some countries, Bangladesh government also may be responsible. You know, the MOU that's signed between Bangladesh and Malaysia few years back actually created some sort of irregularities in the migration governance, particularly the Malaysian strict imposition of condition, like they have to they're choosing some sort of 25 recruiting agencies, a labor syndicate that has formed, and that actually benefited from this labor market, which actually increased the migration cost. So I think the Tariq Rahman's this visit should come up with some concrete proposal and also concrete agreement between Bangladesh and Malaysia how to reduce the cost of migration and how to reduce the exploitation in this kind of labor market that Bangladesh is having in Malaysia. And both the countries, both the government has to accept that there are some loopholes within the system, particularly, you know, the people who gone to Malaysia with regular status, but sooner when they arrived in Malaysia, they become jobless. They actually recruited for some fake companies who actually doesn't exist. So that is where the government should be responsible for, because they issued the demand letter, and that demand letter is attested by the government counterpart in Malaysia. So why the hell then the worker who goes there doesn't get the job? So that is the responsibility government must accept, and that's why the bilateral talk between Bangladesh and Malaysia must address these expatriate issues, particularly the irregular migrants that Bangladesh is currently having in Malaysia. And also there are huge opportunities, particularly lots of Bangladeshi students now are going to Malaysia. So student exchange in education and also trade, commerce, particularly information technologies, and Malaysia is one of the biggest hub of the international industrial conglomerate. So Bangladesh might also take opportunity from this industrial avenue that Malaysia has explored, particularly
also energy trades between the two nations. We've seen 2 months of energy issues stemming out. Maybe in the future we can work these out.
We also supposed to take the refined oil from Malaysia, like the refineries. But yeah, Bangladesh might opt for new refineries for their own welfare, because, you know, we cannot rely only one refinery. So Malaysia was an option at that time. We have heard that. So we have the opportunities to get cash in from this trip. Otherwise, it's meaningless if we cannot resolve the existential issues of our expatriate facing in Malaysia.
Of course, excellent remarks from Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. Of course, there is some of the issues I also want to pick out. There's some uncanny resemblances from culture in Malaysia and Bangladesh. Bengalis love their spices in their meal. Similarly, Malaysian people love their sambal, is also a spice-related dish, condiment in Malaysia. Afterwards, our Prime Minister is supposed to be visiting China as well. But however, Malaysia and Asian partners will coordinate both with Bangladesh as well for the repatriation of the Rohingya refugees. Recently, we're hearing news that the UN wants more of a land allocation in Ukhia, Teknaf for these refugees. The government of Tariq Rahman says that is just not possible because it was done way back in 2018. We are approaching the decade mark. In another 2 years, it will become a decade that we have been harboring refugees.
Yes.
Just a very short comment before I
On
can end
that,
the
I think
program.
Bangladesh need to pursue very strongly with the Asian countries, like, you know, the Myanmar is causing this problem, and Bangladesh, since in this budget, Bangladesh has given lots of opportunity for the Chinese investor, like the electric car and also lots of avenues. Bangladesh must pursue the Chinese government to help them to get rid of this, this problem, particularly more Rohingya influx will actually destabilize the country. So I think we are now in huge risk of pushing from Indian side as well. So currently we need huge economic and political diplomacy with the Asian countries and also particularly with the China government to get some solution on this Rohingya influx, because you know China have a huge leverage in Myanmar. So if China is agreed to support Bangladesh, I think there should be some redressal
and
on these
General
issues.
Ming-Aut Lang was in China just a week ago discussing their ties militarily, of course, how they are going to once again reunite the various sectors of Myanmar. Of course, the Rakhine state is an outlawed state in the government of Myanmar as well. We look to see how these nations can once again be a prosperous area for geopolitics once more. Thanking Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya.
And also, since SARC is no longer active, Bangladesh might strongly pursue to become a member of ASEAN and also get the economic cooperation from these Asian countries and also get the political solution of the Rohingya issue through that economic cooperation with the Asian countries. Bangladesh might strongly pursue with the Chinese influence to become a member of, and also Malaysian influence, so that broadly Muslim nation Indonesia also is the member of the ASEAN. So Bangladesh should also pursue that avenue to become a member of the ASEAN and pursue this interest.
Of course, lovely commentary, lovely and important discussions regarding geopolitics from around the world. Thanking Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya for your contributions, patience and your time regarding national and international issues. Also thanking Norman Floyd Barnes for providing a perspective from Washington, D.C. in how Washington sees the entire globe. Before I finish, let us all be reminded that today is the 22nd of June. It is known worldwide as World Rainforest Day, and this day has been celebrated since 2017 to highlight the importance of conserving rainforest or tropical rainforest known as the green lungs of our world. Forests absorb a large amount of carbon dioxide and play an important role in producing oxygen. At the same time, they maintain the balance of the environment as well as providing shelter for numerous creatures for their livelihoods in the jungles. Let us all pledge to conserve forest and nature and to stop deforestation all across the globe. With that being stated, I am Shamsul Alam Pantho signing off on International Affairs.